Yo, 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 what's going on, my peoples? Hey, sorry it's been a couple weeks since I've done any videos. I've had literally frigging 15 students over at my house and the place next door to me. I rented three places. I have my townhouse and the one next to me and the one next to me. I rented the whole crew of them as I had students over for our summer mentoring session. So they've been at my place, and Mary Beth's been here, and a couple of the other employees at my place that work for me, and we've been rounding everybody up and doing live trading and then classes at night so I can get my hands on these guys. Most of these guys stayed for 2 weeks, so it was something that you really got to slowly build up your knowledge base on. One of the things I've noticed with classes and conferences is that, you know, they last for like 2 days, and it's like, what can you really learn? To get your hands dirty, right? To like not only work on something, but then to work on it again and repeat and rinse till it kind of makes sense is really important. It's got to be that immersive experience where, you know, they can ask questions, but you're working with them and getting your hands dirty. And it was just a really rewarding experience. It's the first time I've had that many over at the house. It was pretty fun. Like, we had a lot of fun. I mean, we did a lot of trading and all that, but you know, even more importantly, is like we built some awesome relationships and really developed people's skill sets. You know, everybody told me that they got a lot out of it. So hopefully I'll be doing them again, probably in a couple months or month or two or something like that. So I'm back on the video train though for you guys. So I want to talk to you a little bit about a bounce trade that we did in JDST today. I made about 1,400 bucks on this thing, give or take or something. And dude, I got out way too early. You know, I went for a swim and so I sold this thing and it's going. But this is a really, really easy setup. So, you know, you could see what happened with this stock is it's been on like this tremendous trend for quite some time. And it got to about $103 and just went on this like epic tank. See that? And you got down to the 50 SMA here and it oversold stochastics on Friday. And so today, in the morning, when it tapped back into the moving average, I started to look at this for a potential long. And it was a pretty simple setup in that what I was doing on this, let me get rid of these lines here. Once it tapped back in to the 70 spot, I'm just looking for a particular entry. So I like gap fills or 1, 2, 3 patterns. There's a host of things that I do. Look at this thing go. I'm going to throw up. I had quite a lot of shares of it. But so essentially, as this thing started to gap fill, I added a couple hundred, you know, I added a position into this thing and at about $71. So with the stop under. As it spiked up here, I sold off a couple. And when I have a bigger play thesis like this, like something that's going to be a monster bounce, you know, we were talking about this pre-market that this thing's got a huge run in it due to the fact it's come down so much. So what I'm doing is I'm trading around a core thesis, a core position. And so I sell a couple. As this thing comes back and remounts the VWAP, I'm starting to add, I'm adding shares, right? I'm adding shares. And then as these things are spiking, I'm essentially selling off into it. I'm trading around a core position. Stock comes back, releases out of its flag, so I add 200 shares again. And then it's pop, 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 and sell, 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 right? And I keep a core still. Now, as this thing starts to base out, you can start to see here, you start to flag out, I start adding some shares again. So I add some at 73.40. So as traders, our job is to get as big as possible within our risk parameters. When we have a trade that's working in our favor, that we know it can do something on a big picture. And so I'm adding back into this a full position with the target of this gap fill. And then once it goes green, it can go right to 80, whatever. So as this thing breaks here, essentially I sell off all my shares. That's where I made my mistake. I sold off all my shares here in the 75, 20s, 30s, some close to 80, and I took off. I went for a swim, as is my custom. You know, I like to do a midday swim in the ocean You know, the beach has been great here for the last, I don't even know, last few months. It's just been a warm winter, and so I sold off, and that was a huge mistake. You know, I made 1,400 bucks, but you know, it flagged again and took off. You know, trading 300 shares of this, 200, even 200 shares. Say you have a smaller account, right? You can still make good money on this. You know, a lot of my students that trade in our fund with me, that trade my capital, like Henrik and Simon and some of these guys that are some of my good students, what they'll do is, you know, they may only trade 100 or 200 shares of this, right, and use a little bit of margin. And if you can rip $3, $4, you still have yourself a nice gain. You know, a lot of times people think like, if I have a smaller account, I can only trade small cap stocks, and they want to trade 2,000 shares of some $2 stock. But what if that stock doesn't move around? There's very little range in some of those small cap stocks sometimes. Sometimes it's easier to take 100 shares of a stock that could have a $10 range, because you can trade up to, down to, up to, down to, right? You can trade it back and forth and add yourself into a huge day while trading just a small amount of shares, you know. And 100 shares, the commissions on that is what? 30 cents. At least for us, it's about 27 cents for 100 shares. So, you know, trading around 100 shares, you don't have to pay those crazy commissions, $5 here, $10 here, right? And so that also makes it kind of cost advantage. So a moral of the story is, big picture, I had the bounce. Then I waited for the intraday setup. And then I trade around my core position when I have that big picture thesis, right? Sell some into the spike, re-add into the patterns, and then go. Where I made my mistake was selling off to go swimming. That was, I could have waited, right? If I waited an hour, I would have had another $1,000, right? That fucking swim was an expensive ass swim, huh? I just love it. You know, I don't like trading into the afternoons. It's not my thing. I have a business to run and students, and you know, but sometimes you have to be relentless, right? And if you see opportunity and something's working in your favor, go out and take it. Keep hammering it, because you only get so many of those every week. You know what I mean? So I made a little bit of a mistake on this too. You know, it was a good day, but I probably could have doubled my profits, right? I mean, I sold $3 too early. Well, look, it got about to 79. I sold $3 too early. I mean, I made a couple $3 on it basically, but I sold $3 early, so I could have had maybe another $1,000 on it. So good trade. I love this setup. I look for these type of trades all the time, but be relentless, right? You know, if this trade is working, keep holding on to it till it gives you a reason to sell. I just sold because I want to go swim, and now I'm kind of like, man, I shouldn't have done that, right? A little bit of regret, because there are days where there's nothing going on in the market. You know, I made 94 bucks on Friday. It was dead out there, right? And I could have made an extra $1,000 if I just stayed about 30 more minutes. So be relentless. You know, if you've got a heater, stick with it, because where a lot of people make mistakes is they're always looking for the next stock. So they're in this hot stock that's working for them, and they keep selling it to raise cash to buy another stock, right? Or they're selling and taking profits, and then they get into another stock that's not as good. And then guess what happens? Now you're in this new position, and so your risk is going to be higher because you're so close to your stop loss, and that other position takes off. And so just something to kind of keep mind of is that, you know, if you get something, let it ride, right? Let it ride and do what it has to do, because, look, if you have a few hundred shares of something like this, it's going to make your whole week, right? Now this thing's going to go. Now, my prediction in the morning was it was going to get into the 80s, and hot damn, like it's about to get there, but I'm not participating, so, you know, what can you do? But I'm off to the gym. I've got some tutorings and stuff like that. And if any of you guys are interested in our next mentorship sessions, as long as you don't mind sleeping at my place, you know, I rent the condos myself, you know, if I think it's going to be too packed to give people room. But most of the time I just keep people at my place. I don't believe in hotels and all that. My mom would kick my butt. You know, it's not good hospitality. So if anybody's interested in kind of that next round of summer boot camp and want to come and stay at the house for a week or two or longer if you need to, let me know, and I'll be around. All right, take care, folks.